My husband had a heart attack. I tried to save him. They said I killed him. The moment they said guilty, something inside me shut down. Not out of disbelief, I had run out of that long ago, but out of pure exhausted heartbreak. My husband died from a heart attack, and somehow, I was the one sentenced. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the floor of a courtroom as the words fell around me like ash. The judge's voice was cold, clinical. Manslaughter. 10 years. 10 years for loving a man who died in his sleep. Behind me, I heard whispers: his family, the press, strangers who had followed the case like a TV show. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was a headline, the widow killer. They said I poisoned him. Said I put something in his food, in his coffee. That I did it for money, for freedom. That the woman who called 911 crying and performing CPR was all an act. I became the villain in a story I didn't write. But I know what really happened. I held my husband's hand as his lips turned blue. I screamed his name over and over. I felt his chest stop rising. And I knew he was gone before the ambulance ever arrived. The first autopsy said it clearly: myocardial infarction. A heart attack. No signs of foul play. No toxins. Just a tired heart that finally gave out. But that wasn't enough for his family. Not enough for the detective who had a hunch. They dug deeper. Demanded a second opinion. Found a forensic expert who claimed his death was suspicious, said the angle of his body on the bed was wrong. That rigor mortis timing didn't match. The science didn't matter, just the suspicion. The police came 3 days after the funeral. I was still wearing his sweatshirt, still crying every night into his pillow. They didn't even knock politely. Just a bang on the door and a badge in my face. They asked me to come in for questions. I thought I was helping. I thought they wanted to close the case, confirm the heart attack. But the moment they sat me down, I realized I wasn't the widow anymore. I was a suspect. No lawyer. No warning. Just questions. Did you argue? Was he cheating? Did you need money? I answered all of them. Naively, honestly. I told them he had a heart condition. That I begged him to slow down, to take his meds. But they already had their story. The trial came fast to fast. The prosecution painted me as cold, calculated. Said I didn't grieve properly, showed the jury a photo of me smiling at a baby shower taken weeks before his death. But they didn't care. Their star witness was a cousin who said we fought at a barbecue once. She said I looked angry. That was all it took. Emotion became evidence. Grief became guilt. My public defender did her best, but she was outmatched. The expert cardiologist we tried to bring in was blocked on a technicality. The jury never heard about the medication that my husband refused to take. I sat through the whole thing numb. Every detail of our love twisted into motive. Every weakness in his body blamed on me. I kept thinking, they'll realize the truth. They have to. But they didn't. So when the verdict came down, I didn't fall apart. I was already in pieces. They said I killed him. But what really killed him was a heart that had been warning him for years. And now mine was the one breaking. Before the accusations, before the sirens and the headlines, there was just us. Me and David. We didn't have a perfect marriage, but we had something real, something solid. Built on late night talks, shared bills, and the kind of laughter that only comes from knowing someone deeply. He was stubborn. The kind of man who'd fix a sink himself, even if it took 3 tries. But he was good. He brought me coffee every morning, even when we fought the night before. He kissed my forehead and say, "We'll be all right." We met at a community fundraiser. He was tall, soft-spoken, and terrible at small talk. That's what I loved about him. No games, no charm act, just honesty. 2 years later, we got married in his aunt's backyard. I wore a borrowed dress. He cried when he saw me walk down the makeshift aisle. He worked in logistics, long hours, lots of stress. I worked part-time at a flower shop. We didn't make much, but we always made it work. We count coins at the end of the month and laugh like we were rich. David had a history of heart problems. Nothing dramatic. At first just high blood pressure, shortness of breath after climbing stairs. But it got worse over the years. His doctor warned him, gave him prescriptions, told him to take it easy. But David didn't believe in slowing down, said life was short and he wasn't going to waste it on salads and naps. I worried, of course. Nagged him, begged him. He'd laugh and say, "You worry enough for both of us." I remember one night, I caught him clutching his chest. He brushed it off. "Just gas," he said. I made him lie down, gave him water, held his hand until he fell asleep. That was 2 months before he died. The night before it happened, we had dinner together. Spaghetti and garlic bread. We watched reruns of old sitcoms. He kissed me goodnight and said, "I don't deserve you." I told him to shut up and go to bed. We both laughed. Around 3 a.m., I woke up and found him collapsed beside the bed. His face was pale, his lips turning blue. I called 911 with shaking hands. I started chest compressions like they taught me in training videos, praying, begging him to come back. The paramedics arrived, took over. But I could see it in their eyes they were too late. One of them put a hand on my shoulder. "We'll do everything we can," he said. But I already knew. At the hospital, they told me he didn't make it. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. No foul play suspected. I called his sister. I called my mom. I went home to an empty bed that still smelled like him and cried. Until the sun came up. The funeral was small. Family, a few friends. I gave a eulogy through tears. Talked about his terrible dancing, his addiction to hot sauce, the way he always hummed the same song when he was nervous. Afterwards, I felt empty. Grief isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the silence at breakfast, the toothbrush left untouched, the way the house feels too big. I wore his sweatshirt every day. I didn't leave the house for weeks. Then came the whispers. She seemed to calm. Didn't they argue a lot? He had a life insurance policy, right? The kind of rumors that start with nothing and grow into monsters. I ignored them at first. Thought grief made people uncomfortable. But I was wrong. Grief makes people suspicious, especially when it wears a woman's face. Prison isn't just about bars and concrete. It's about losing your name, your time, your voice. The day they took me in, I felt like the world turned to static, just noise and cold, gray silence. They made me strip, squat, cough, just like everyone else. Didn't matter that I had never been arrested, that I'd never broken a single law. To them, I was already guilty. Just another file, another body in the system. The first night, I couldn't sleep. The mattress was thin, the lights never truly off, and someone down the hall kept crying low, steady, like a heartbeat. I curled into myself and whispered my husband's name like a prayer. My cellmate, Lorraine, wasn't for drugs. She looked at me like I was made of glass. "You ain't like the others," she said. Too soft. I wanted to say I wasn't supposed to be there. But so did everyone else. The guards called me widow. It started as a joke, but it stuck. "Hey widow, chow time, widow, mill." Every time they said it, it twisted in my stomach. Like my grief had become my identity. I wrote letters to my family, to David's family, to anyone who might still believe in me. Most of them went unanswered. Grief is hard, grief, mixed with suspicion. It's radioactive. My sister visited once, brought me socks and a Bible, said she was praying for me but couldn't come again, too much tension with David's people. I understood. It still broke my heart. I tried to keep my mind busy. Took a GED class even though I already had a diploma. Read every book in the library twice. Started journaling even if most pages ended in tears. There were fights. Not with me, but around me. Screaming in the showers. Shouting matches. During roll call, I learned to stay small. Head down. Mouth shut. It wasn't fear, it was survival. Food came on metal trays, barely warm. Same menu every week. Tuesdays meant mystery meat. Sundays, dry cornbread. You stop caring about taste. You care about getting through the day without losing your mind. Every month, I replayed the night David died. The way he fell. The panic in my chest. The way they took that moment from me and turned it into evidence. As if love could ever be a motive. Lorraine once asked me if I did it. Just like that. I looked her in the eye and said no. She nodded. "Didn't think so," she said. "You cry in your sleep. Killers don't do that." I missed everything. Birthdays. Holidays. Life. My body aged faster. My hair thinned. My joints hurt in the winter. I stopped checking the mirror. Didn't recognize the woman staring back anyway. After 3 years, I stopped counting time. It hurt too much. I just counted sunrises through the crack in the window. Wrote the same line in my journal each day. I am still here. But even in that silence, even in that isolation, I held on to one thing, the truth. I didn't kill my husband. And one day, I was going to make them listen. It started with a letter. Just like that. A yellow envelope with a logo I didn't recognize. Inside was a handwritten note from someone named Marla Trujillo, an advocate from a nonprofit that reviewed wrongful convictions. She had read about my case. She believed something didn't add up. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Too many years had passed. Too many doors slammed shut. But I read her letter 10 times, holding onto every word like a lifeline. "I want to help," she wrote. "And I believe you." 2 weeks later, she came to visit me. Her voice was calm, sharp. Her eyes didn't flinch when I cried. "I've seen this pattern before," she said. "Emotion over evidence, assumptions over science. We're going to look at everything again." She started with the original autopsy. The first report listed myocardial infarction as a cause of death. Classic symptoms. No trauma, clean talk screen. It was textbook. But that didn't fit the prosecution story. Then she found the second report, the one used at trial. It came from an independent examiner hired by the DA's office, a retired pathologist with no background in cardiology. He suggested possible suffocation based on bruising that wasn't even documented in the first report. There were no photographs, no clear chain of custody, just one man's opinion, layered in maybe and might have. And that had been enough to send me away. Marla tracked down a board-certified forensic cardiologist, Dr. Jeffers, who reviewed the entire file. His conclusion was direct and unwavering. This was a heart attack. Natural causes. No evidence of foul play. She filed a motion to reopen the case. Attached the expert analysis, original autopsy, and a full timeline. They ignored science, she wrote. Now they must face it. The DA's office pushed back hard, claimed a new report lacked context, that the jury made a reasonable decision. But now, people were watching. A local news station aired a piece, widow convicted on disputed evidence. Social media picked it up. True crime podcasts, advocacy pages. Suddenly, I wasn't just an inmate, I was a question. A symbol of something bigger. People wanted to know how someone could be convicted when the science said otherwise. The pressure worked. The court scheduled a review hearing. Not a retrial yet, but a chance to present the new evidence and challenge the flawed testimony that stole my life. Marla visited again the night before. She looked tired but focused. They won't apologize, she said. Don't expect that. But we're going to make them admit they were wrong. I nodded. My hands trembled. I hadn't stepped inside a courtroom since the day they condemned me. But this time, I had something I didn't before, truth that someone finally cared to hear. As I walked to the transport van, dressed in gray, chained at the ankles, I kept repeating the words Dr. Jeffers wrote in his report. No signs of asphyxiation. Natural cardiac death. I whispered them like armor. They had ignored the truth once, but this time, the truth was louder. I sat at the defense table in shackles, heart pounding louder than the judge's voice. It was all too familiar, the same courtroom, same wood-paneled walls, same prosecutor's seat. But this time, the air was different. This time, someone was finally speaking for me. Marla stood and laid out every piece of ignored evidence. She was calm, precise. Every word cut through the silence like a blade. The original autopsy, the certified cardiologist's report, the questionable background of the state's pathologist. All of it. The prosecutor stayed stone-faced. He didn't defend the evidence. He defended the process, said the system did its best with what it had. I wanted to scream. What it had was the truth. It chose not to use it. Then Dr. Jeffers took the stand. His words were clinical, but his voice held quiet outrage. This death was natural, he said. Had proper weight been given to medical standards, this woman would not have been convicted. I looked at the judge. His eyes were hard to read. Years of people lying in his courtroom had made him cautious. But I saw it somewhere, deep behind the robe and the rules he knew. He asked me if I had anything to say. My mouth went dry, but I stood. I didn't kill my husband, I said, my voice steady. He died of a heart attack. I tried to save him, and I was punished for loving him. The judge took a long pause before speaking. The room was completely still. Even the reporters had stopped typing. Then he said the words I never thought I'd hear. The conviction is vacated. The defendant is ordered released. Immediately, time stopped. I didn't cry. Not at first. My brain couldn't process it. I looked at Marla. She smiled, just a small, tired smile. The kind people wear after surviving a storm. The guards removed my shackles. My wrists were sore. I stood slowly, as if waking up from a deep, cruel sleep. Outside that courtroom, people clapped. But I didn't hear them. I was listening for my heartbeat, making sure it was real. The sky looked different. The sun felt too bright. The air too clean. I have forgotten how fresh air actually smells. For 12 years, I dreamed about that first breath of freedom. But nothing prepares you for it. My sister waited for me on the steps. She was older, grayer, but her eyes filled with tears the second she saw me. We didn't speak. We just held each other. The kind of hug that says we made it. We went to a diner near her house. I ordered pancakes and coffee. I ate slowly, savoring every bite like it was my first meal. In a way, it was the first one, not served on a metal tray with numbers stamped on the cup. That night, I couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the silence too kind. I kept expecting the lights to flicker on for someone to shout count time. But nothing came. Just peace. Just quiet. Marla called the next morning. You're a free woman, she said. I thanked her, but words weren't enough. How do you thank someone for giving you your life back? Before we hung up, she asked me what I wanted to do next. I looked around the room, took a deep breath, and said, I want the world to know my husband died of a heart attack. And I want them to know I didn't. Freedom is strange. It doesn't feel like fireworks or cheering crowds. It feels like a warm cup of coffee. Like standing barefoot on your own floor. Like finally being able to breathe without asking permission. But it also feels empty. The years don't come back. The birthdays missed. The conversations never had. The photographs, where I should have been but wasn't. That kind of time isn't refunded. It just disappears. I moved into a small apartment above a bakery. Nothing fancy. A creaky floor, a window that sticks. But it was mine. No searches. No roll calls. No guards watching every move. Just quiet mornings and slow healing. I started writing. Not a book, at least not yet. Just letters. To other women still inside. Women accused of things they didn't do. Some of them wrote back. Some couldn't. But I kept writing anyway. I visited David's grave after 2 weeks. It took me that long to find the courage. I brought flowers and sat on the cold ground. They know the truth now, I whispered. But I wish I didn't have to lose you to prove it. Grief came back like a second wave, sharper, somehow. Now that the lies were gone, all I could feel was the absence. No more anger. Just missing him. Missing us. My name started appearing in articles. Podcasts.panels. Wrongfully convicted widow finally. Freed. I hated the spotlight. But I knew it mattered. People needed to see what the system could do. What it still does. I joined a group for exonerees. We shared our scars like war stories. Men. Women. All with one thing in common: we had all been forgotten. And somehow we had survived. My sister convinced me to speak at a local college. Pre-law students, future prosecutors. I stood in front of them and said, don't just learn how to win. Learn how to listen. Because if one of you had listened, I wouldn't have lost 12 years. I started a scholarship in David's name. For students pursuing forensic science for the right reasons. For truth, not trophies. He would have liked that. He always believed in people more than they deserved. Every Sunday, I volunteer at a reentry center. Help women find jobs, get IDs, find a place to stay. They call me Miss Naomi. They don't know my whole story, but they see the fight in my eyes, and they trust it. Sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. in a panic. The old habits die hard. I look around, remember where I am, and breathe. I whisper to myself, you're home. You're safe. You're free. I still wear my wedding ring. Not because I can't move on, but because I want to remember. Not the pain, not the trial, but the love, the real, honest love that started it all. If I could go back, I wouldn't change how I loved David. I wouldn't change the way I held his hand or the way I begged him to take care of his heart. I just wish the world had taken care of mine. I was once called the widow killer. Now, I'm just Naomi. And Naomi survived, Naomi speaks, Naomi fights, and Naomi will never, ever be silenced again.